Welcome back to the Three Beards Podcast, everybody. We are live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here. Same beard channel, same beard place. We are brought to you proudly by Hurt Radio. Go to Mixler.com and you can set up the account there, and then you can follow Hurt Radio. I'll have it on the ticker screen for everybody the link to find that. Got a great lineup of shows there so far. We got Three Beards Podcast, Into the Outer Realms, Uncensored with David and Maureen, and Dimension of the Supernatural, and others, along with some music lineup. Check him out. Ron Toltbar, he's working on building that up there. Really recommend. It's nice that that he just reached out to us, and proud to have him as a sponsor. So everybody, check him out. Tonight we are talking Squatch. We're talking Bigfoot. We're talking the hairy man of the woods. You've ginger squatch, if you can find him, that's a rare subspecies that is known to inhabit somewhere around the Howie in the Hills area of Florida. He's known out there. So if anybody sees the rare ginger squatch, you can track him down. The only thing we recommend shooting him with is a trank dart, and that way he's easier to corral then, or just tacos. Tacos will bring him in. So if you got to do that, so Chris Reinhardt, he is the proprietor of Discover Sasquatch on YouTube. Great show. I've checked out as soon as I checked out a few of his shows too. Really good work. So it was an honor to have him on, and looking forward to having the discussion here and telling us the stats of like what he's found during his endeavors, and kind of setting us straight on where the misconceptions that we might have, which is going to be fantastic. So Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch, he is coming up right about now. As soon as I can find my little banner thing here and kick the show off, then we'll be in great shape. And that is right now.
Welcome to the Three Beards Podcast. My name's Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is white.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Three Beards Podcast. I'm not going to do that all show. That'd be ridiculous. Oh, my God. No, busy week. Man, it's actually time flew. I'm actually surprised that we're already back here on Wednesday. So that is crazy. So hopefully everybody's been good out there. I mean, if life wasn't so crazy, we almost need to do more than one show a week because there's so much stuff going on. So everybody, become a subscriber today. Make this to where this is our full-time job, and then we can start having more shows and take care of the stuff we do. That's
Absolutely.
Even our guest is, who you can't see in the green room, he's nodding. Yes, subscribe, support us, and help us make this our full-time jobs. And with that, Chris Reinhardt is here. How are you, sir?
Good evening, everybody.
Get the applause track in there. That's right. So the man behind the source behind Discover Sasquatch.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on the show.
Hey, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's what it. We've touched on the subject a few times, and I'll dabble it here and there, but that's one of those things that we're really trying, kind of breaking out. We're going to, for those, there's an opportunity coming up here, everybody. If anybody wants to possibly meet 3 quasi celebrities in their own mind, we may be in a little destination called Ocala up in north central Florida at I want to say it's the Greater Florida Bigfoot Conference.
Yeah, it's the Great Florida Bigfoot
Great
Conference.
Yeah,
so great, it's only one day.
Yeah, so while everybody else is milling around, we're just going to kind of go in there incognito and wait for that one person that might recognize us.
Oh my God, I remember you.
Oh my God, you're that guy that I saw in the commercial. No, that's the other guy.
I'm going there actually. I'm gonna go talk to Ron Moorhead face to face. I have a couple questions for him. I'm gonna look for. Of course, I want to hit up David Polites and then also Jeff Meldrum. I got a lot of questions, so these guys are going to be there. I'm just going to be, doing like not discussing like, oh, I watch on TV. I'm actually asking them some stuff, information wise.
Yeah. So now, Chris, do you go to many of these conferences and stuff at all?
No, I do not. I'm not a crowd person, and I like to just, I don't know, I'm not a crowd person. So to get involved in all that, and I just wouldn't feel comfortable, or not saying that I never will, but as of yet, no, I've never been to one. But I got friends that are going to be there. I know Chris Connor from the Trail to Bigfoot, he's going to be there. I got a bunch of friends that'll be there. So
yeah, it's an interesting group.
And it actually, that you said that, it makes sense too. It's one of those, if most people who are the ones that like to go hiking all the time, they're not exactly fans of being in the urban environment, like large crowds and stuff. They really enjoy the solitude and going around there. So that doesn't surprise me at all that you actually were like, I try to avoid them as much as I can.
Yeah. We live like hermits. We like to stick to ourselves and do our own thing, and then come back to our cave and, hang out for the night. We're not big outgoers. I mean, we love hiking here at the house. We have 2 grandchildren, and they keep us busy and all that stuff. But as for big crowds, and I it's like, to me, it's like trying to flaunt your stuff, or trying to make your way up the ladder is the way I see it. These guys that speak at the symposiums all the time, they're getting paychecks.
Not all of them.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. You guys know what I mean. There's
yeah.
Al and I never get paychecks.
Do your own thing. I guess that's what I should say first off. I said you could do your own thing. I am not the lead call on anything. So that's just the way I do it. I just like you said, I like to go to the woods, live the hermit lifestyle, and talk to people like you guys do. That's why I got the podcast. So reach out to talk to people like Ron Moorhead and Doug Hychek. I got the opportunity to go with Doug Hychek this year on a trip to Canada from the podcast. So I'm excited for that. And I like to travel and see, and go big, Sasquatch investigating. That's what I like to do.
Well, that's been one of the things about this. For anybody it's new, that this whole thing with the podcast, the cool part is 4 years ago, there's no way that I would have met Brian, kind of did this because the circles didn't intersect at all. And so the fact that I'm talking to people like Andy McGrath from London, you're talking to all these people. It's like, that's the only reason this is happening is because of the show, and which is really cool. And my massive stack of disarray of books over here that I'm in the process of reading and stuff is also because of the show. That's one of the other side products is, I thought I was done with this in high school and college with doing all the research, papers and stuff. And now, I do a show, and these are the kind of things I'm having to do.
Yeah.
It's just like, God,
the rabbit hole has opened once again.
Yeah, I mean, when we go to shows, and if I'm going to the show, it's literally strictly, it's not because of the conference. I'm not there to hear everybody there. I'm actually there I have certain things I've been working on in relationship to the, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call them, and I want to run it by a select few people that are there. So I got questions from Meldrum that are strictly apology based, and I want to talk to Moorhead because him and it's nice to finally meet somebody in person. I mean, I've talked to him numerous times on the phone, when he was in the Pacific Northwest and then he moved over here, but it's nice to see people in person every once in a while, put a handshake to the presence. But other than that, I'm like, these conferences are a dime a dozen. It's the same people all the time.
This will be my first one that I've actually been to. Going to this.
I mean, I've never been to one. So is it like an open forum where they have like vendors and stuff like that, or is it just going to be a classroom style lecture all day?
No, I think it's going to be
both.
I think it's going to be a presentation stage where you get seats, where they're going to set up seats. But I think you'll have vendors around there, which is kind of cool because sometimes you get, really cool shirts. You can connect with other people. On a podcast scale, we did it. I did it once. I went up to a conference and I got to interview. It was all TAPS-based people. So we got Sherry Benedetti, became friendly with her. She's on the show. I'm friends with Joe Chin now. These are the people, what's his name from the Rape Chasers, the one that screwed up and hooked up with some other chick. Well, there's a bunch of people you can hook up with and get on your show. He screwed the pooch. He went with this girl. It was whatever. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah. So that was, we'll get some of the real easy softball ones that you get a lot of the times too. It's just like, what was your first ever encounter that got you hooked on this thing that actually, you're like, okay, I've got a passion for this?
My first encounter was in the Ozark Mountains in Missouri. I got invited to become part of a project down there, and it was my first night down there. And I was out in the woods here for a few months before this. I ever went down there finding tree structures and all that type of stuff, footprints, but never had that interaction. Never had something that was like real. I mean, you see those tree structures. It was cool, you're finding them, blah, 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 blah. So we get down there, we find a trackway right off the bat, and we cast it. And then we go back to the camp, finish setting up, and then we head back down to the trackway, and one of the guys catches one in a creek on flare, and he's popping his head up, and then boom. And he slowly come up and look at us again, and then boom, gone. So we watched him for, 15, 20 minutes do that. And then he kind of went down into the creek and disappeared. And we went down to the end of the creek. We dug up all the prints, went back to the campsite saying, how cool is this first night here at the camp? And we got prints already. We seen one on thermal, what a night. And now I'm thinking, I didn't know these things were really, I was a believer, but I wasn't a knower. There's two different huge things. Believing and knowing. There's a huge difference between the two. So now I know that these things are walking the forest right beside us. I seen them. I seen their footprints, and now I'm going to bed, and I'm in my tent. I wake up 2 o'clock, I think around 2 o'clock tomorrow. I'm not sure what time. And I can hear footsteps, and they're creeping up to my tent, one step at a time. Not like Godzilla footsteps, but like creeping. You put your heel down and would rest your foot. And then you put your heel down and rest your foot. And it came all the way to the side of the tent. And then it ended the last step right by my head at the tent. We didn't have the rain gear on the tent. And I knew if I looked up, whatever was there, I was going to see it. And I couldn't do it. I could not look up. So he or it or she, I call them a people. After everything I've been through, these guys deserve that classification. He or she came down to me and huffed on the side of my face. I felt the breath on the side of my cheek after the huff. Came down and went, oh, like that. And look at my arms are electrified right now.
Now was the huff because you turned out, you turned away her advances?
I wouldn't come up. I think
She was trying to flirt with you, and you're just like, nope, I got no interest in this.
anyways, I shook for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I just shook.
God.
Now
I can imagine
100% that these things are real. These things are real. And then the following night was just as crazy. We had like 4 days in a row of crazy activity with Sasquatch where we've seen them flare 3 nights in a row. They were throwing stones at us. It was just a whole total eye-opening experience. And ever since that time, I've been hooked, line, and sinker for the last 7 years going after these.
So at any time in this investigation, did you feel uneasy? Did you feel scared that he was going to jump on you? He or she was going to jump on you? Did you feel like, they're throwing rocks at us, better leave? How did you feel upon?
I was a mess the whole first trip. I didn't want to be there anymore. Honestly, I'll put my hand, and I'm not afraid to tell you, I didn't want to be there. I wanted to go. Because the next night we watched one walk between 2 trees on thermal back and forth for like 10 minutes. He looked like he was worried that we were there. Pitch dark. Now imagine this. We're sitting on a ridge, 2:30 in the morning, pitch dark, with a flare on a pole facing backwards, and we're watching the screen of him walk back and forth. And then the guy that's there turns around and grabs something out of his pack, and that thing jumped behind a tree in 2 seconds. Boom. And started the peak.
Wow.
It was 60 yards away. He's seen us in the pitch dark. Now, these guys can see incredible at night. Incredible. And we're walking through paths that are they're bunny trails, and we're going through the forest on the way back after just seeing all this. Also, I just think in your head, one's going to come and grab you by the neck. He's just going to pull you in the forest. There's nothing you're going to do about it. You ain't going to see him. You're going to hear him. Yeah. So it took me a while after that it took probably like 3 years before I kind of started to shake it. I still got that in the back of my head. Believe me, when you have 1.5 inch from your face,
it
makes you think, and to know, and then finally know you went from believer to knower.
What was the smell like, Chris? Like the breath?
I didn't smell anything. I didn't smell any breath. I just felt the warmth, and it's like on the side of my cheek. And I couldn't tell you where it went afterwards, but I shook for 20 minutes. Then I had to go find a tree. Now I have to go outside the tent, and I'm thing's still out there, and I'm standing in the middle of the tent, and the guy in the tent finally wakes up and shines a light on me. He says, I'm pale white. He's like, dude, what's wrong with you? You're pale white. I said, you're not going to believe what just happened to me. You're not going to believe it. So I told him, he's like, why didn't you wake me up? I said, I couldn't wake you up. I was too busy shaking. Yeah. Shaking. So I said, I got to go outside. Well, what are you going to do? So I put my lamp on my head, and I zipped the thing up. I put my head down. I grabbed the bucket. I went 20 feet from the freaking tent, outpowered it, and then back into the tent. It was. Well, that's the honest. I got to be honest. That's what happened, man. And
so in other words, it scared the shit out of you.
Yes, basically.
Let me tell you,
literally.
It really. A lot of this stuff is depends moments. It's no joke, dude.
Our sponsor Ron, you said the same thing. He goes, he had an encounter, and then he put it right there that he was camping in Ohio and heard some animal breathing beside his tent, and it was just immediately he had to go to the bathroom, and so he ran. I mean that's one of the things from the times that I've been out hunting and doing these things. There's certain things that are like the normal noises, but it's amazing. As soon as it gets dark, a little squirrel freaks you the living hell out, because it might as well just be a 30-foot monster behind you when you hear that little, the twig snap, all it was is a rabbit just, flopping along. But you get those moments where, it's hard to describe to people until you've actually been out there, but you feel it. Like you said, with your arms, there's something. I think it's that primal instinct of us where there's a danger, because you instantly feel it. There's something out there. You don't know where it is, but there just has that feeling that I've got to find shelter. I got to put my back against something, so that way you can grounding. And I can imagine if you come across something like you have those encounters, where's your safe space? Where's that place to put your back? It's not there, so what do? That little nylon tent is not much protection.
No. And it could just take you and wrap you up and just take you, period. You got nothing you can do about it.
You're a tasty, what commercial was that where they just referred to it as a burrito? There's one that had that where it just said, check it out. There, you go in there, there's two wrapped up like nice little burritos, inside the sleeping bags. It's like, there's not a lot of protection in your tents.
No.
But that might not be such a bad thing. If you drag you off kicking and screaming, you might get to find a hideaway.
I think if it's kicking you, you're dragging you off kicking and screaming, you're not coming back to tell any tales.
Right.
You're now part of the group when we do a show, the Missing 411.
And then the rock throws, what else in the forest is going to throw rocks at you horizontally? I mean, ravens pick up rocks to drop on people if you're closer to nest or something like that. But when they're coming in on a line drive and taking leaves off trees, I mean, that's not a raven hawking them at you. It's not a raccoon. It's something with hands hawking stones at you in the middle of nowhere. That's another thing that you got to be aware of, because that happens. I mean, they grab stones and they throw. For sure.
Welcome, Chris, the show, Country Boy Cryptids. We're going to be on his show on Star Wars Day, May 4th.
Yeah,
you're going on there, so that's a little thing. So we'll have something special for that show. So just stay tuned.
So from your first time like that, at first encounter till now, which has been a couple of years, are you bolder now? Are you more prepared to have that encounter again?
Oh yeah.
No?
Yes. Now it took me, like I said, it took 3 years to get past it. It really did, 3 years. But no, I'm ready for it. Now I go out at night now, and I'm not. We've had stuff go down, and no, nothing like it was there. And again, you're in their territory when you're out there, and you're out of your element. It's their element. They're the boss. They're the boss.
I mean, I'm not going to, before the show, I'm not going to talk anything about that. But what made me think about was that question, Brian, just piggybacking on that. Now that you've experienced that, have you found that you have now a really good way to help other people that are going through similar scenarios like that, where they've got some encounter, it's freaked them out, they don't know what to do, and now you could be like, hey, I've been there, this is what I did, this is what helped me, have you found there's like a system there for you to help people, or is it one of those just, unfortunately, everybody's trauma is their trauma and there's not really a map to coping with it?
No, but yeah, number B, I've tried, and I'm trying now to help someone, and she's made some strides, but she's not there. She's still not there. And she's had her own interaction. She has her own, she's seen it. I wasn't there. I didn't live it. And like she did, I didn't see what she's seen. I know the interaction, and I tell you right now, it would scare the bejesus out of anybody. It was a very, very isolated, and she was by herself, and she had a young one looking at her. With bad intent. She was at her pool, and she was scared to death, and still scared to death.
So he searched her out. She wasn't looking for it.
Yeah, no, she wasn't looking. They built a house on a property, and I guess they must have been there already, because they've had activity ever since they built the house on their property.
So she's out back in her property by the pool, and this thing kind of squashes up.
She looks up, and she looks to her left, and she sees it, and she says it was like he was groomed. He was ready. It looked like he was ready for a date, basically. But all the hair was brushed in front of his face, and she said he was just mammoth. And she said she had a voice come to the back of her head. She said that turn away and don't look at him. And she turned her head, and I guess she heard a grunt or something after that. And then when she looked back up, he was gone. I think after hearing the whole story, I think her Papa was there. I think this was a young one, teenager, and I think Papa's the thing that grunted at him and said, "Hey, that's enough. Go." Or Mama, or one of them.
Yeah.
That's just my take on it. But
is it like a primate? Does it seem where you're not supposed to lock eyes? That's like a challenge.
Right. Yeah.
So by her turning her back, that was probably the best thing where you're not supposed to, it wasn't stare down time.
Right. Yeah. But she said it was either her guardian angel or something came to her and told her not to look at it. Turn your head. And she did. So she's making strides, but again, it is everybody's own experience. I mean, I still think about my experience, and it hasn't changed the way I think about it. It doesn't change the way I feel about it. So PTSD is real in this subject. Real.
Oh, yes, it is. I like your theory though about an older or a father or whatever coming out and saying cut the crap, go, and kind of intervening, because when you said ill intent, unless they're out of their mind or you really piss them off, but there is a lot of ill intent with these creatures. I mean, they're they have the same urges for the most part that we do, as especially as teenagers, and you don't know what can happen from that. So
who knows what it was thinking? But she said he was groomed, he was combed, dirty, he was slicked up. He's ready for a date. That's basically what
maybe that was a courting ritual.
You said she was by the pool. Maybe he was coming back to take another dip in the pool. Maybe he realized he was still trying to get a little fresher.
Yeah, there's a creek that runs by their house too. So,
well, when you say groomed, I mean, that could have been maybe the look. If she gave him a look and noticed, that could have been a mating thing. He was trying to.
She thinks. I think she was afraid that she's there to take her.
That would be a Weekly World News article.
Pregnant from a Sasquatch. Baby comes out hairy.
That's probably raped by Sasquatch.
Yeah.
What's that? That's an Inquirer one. You're going to see the Inquirer thing right now, the page. Front page. I was assaulted by a squatch. It's like, God.
It just manhandled me.
Yeah, it's like no, Bobo. He was just there for the Oreos and the bacon and the Snickers and
right.
Yeah, as much crap as I'd like to give that thing, it's like, in a way, it does make sense that that they would have a taste for camping food.
Oh yeah,
just like other wild animals do, because it's just all this stuff. I mean, there's a reason why chipmunks go after potato chips. That's what they've learned that's an amazing, tasty food.
They were taking iced coffees out of our coolers in the Ozarks. We would leave recorders when we left the campsite, and I had a whole bunch for the week. And they came back and they're like almost gone. I'm like, well, who's been drinking all the coffees? And then we went back and we listened to the recordings, and you hear the cooler door popping open and close while we would leave the site.
So you could take this idea, since that's your story. What do you call it? Just a picture, and you got to have Sasquatch and then holding an iced coffee, like the Starbucks type, thing, and it's just like bougie Squatch, just something like that. Because here it is drinking a fancy iced coffee. I mean, it's perfect merchandise. It's yours. Take it. It's your story.
Sasquatch brew.
Yeah, that's something. That's awesome. Just come out and it's just like a yuppie. Just cracking back.
So from that point,
it was Monster coffees too. So
from that point, I mean, how have you developed from that point and getting so really into it up till where you are right now? Because I know, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on that I don't think you were expecting initially.
Yeah, I always thought they were flesh and blood for the longest time, until about 2 years ago when I was actually in the Green Swamp in Florida, and that's when it all broke loose on me. We had something that just blew my mind, and then I knew that there was something else to these guys, or they weren't just flesh and blood. They have some special something to them. They can use frequencies and like infrasound and stuff like that. We're not saying that it was them, but we had messages left on our phones. We asked Chris I was with Chris Connor. He asked for a knock. He got a knock at the tree at the place. 5 seconds later, I fell in a creek. We got an EVP that says, "Hey, look, it's Chris," in a southern draw. We got it all on tape. You can go on my channel at Discover Sasquatch and watch The Veil. It's on my live interviews, and you can see everything I tell you about this, the initials that were left on the phone. And the initials that were left on the phone was on my phone, 4 letters over and over again. It was CBBM, but it was all like 60 lines of it. So we figured it was a butt dial, right? So we erased them all but 11. We filmed the last 11, then we erased them. We get back to the house. I take my phone out again and look, and on the text messages again, there they are again, CCBBMMCC. Now it's in capital letters, small letters, exclamation points, parentheses, everything. And I show Chris, I'm like, look it's back. He's like, no way. And we couldn't figure out what it meant. We thought it was like maybe a Morse code or something. His wife comes over and she goes, I know exactly what that is. And our jaws drop. We're like, what do you mean you know exactly what it is? She goes, Betty, Beata, Mark, and Chris, the 4 people that were in the Green Swamp for the last 10 years that were searching Sasquatch in that area on my phone, texting out to somebody else.
So kind of in that thing, do you think that's where, because that's also the been like a theory that of why that UFO, some aerial phenomenon theory, sightings are seen, almost at the same time that you see Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. So do you think this is possible? This might be possibly connected to that.
I am
to where
to lean that way big time, because I've had stuff here at my own house now that will just blow your mind. I don't, it's just mine.
Because to me that would make sense, because it's just one of those, especially on that thing because where would the connection be to some creature you see in the woods and suddenly being able to interact with a tech device,
right?
And that would be one of those things. If it was something where craft or something was involved, there would be a tech to tech type, interaction.
Right. I remember we were also picking up. We use radio frequency instead of EMF on our detectors, and our meters were being topped out while having stones thrown at us at the same time that weekend in the same area. And we had satellite technicians reach out to us and say, there's no way you guys should have been getting any of those readings with a broadband EMF detector of that high in the middle of nowhere in the swamp. And he said, if you were enclosed in a Faraday box, it would cook you. Microwaves, they would cook you. He says the only way that it could is something that could have to be above. It'd have to come from above. That's what he said. So,
wow.
Something very important that Chris said, and I don't remember if it was pre-show or when we started. Chris said, what did you say about belief? Like people that go out and look for these creatures, that what do? They pick you. They know who they want to go and talk to and deal with.
So now we'll go back to my first experience. Everybody tells me I was marked by the Sasquatch on that night when they bent over the tent. And ever since then, I've been anywhere I go, anywhere I have visited, I have had Sasquatch activity everywhere. I've gone to 6-7 different states, and in every state I've had Sasquatch activity.
Wow.
UFO activity, and now I have it at my house. I had a black chopper over my house 2 months ago, hovering for 10 minutes after we had Sasquatch activity in my front yard.
Al just said that same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Al Santrigo was just saying he's currently having black helicopter activity around his house.
Yep.
Wow.
That's because he deals drugs.
Now,
next.
Yeah, those are DEA helicopters.
There's actually an app that I don't want to talk about on here, but I'll post it in Messenger and we'll make sure you get it. It tells you what's flying up.
Yeah, no, we looked at it. I have my buddy that's in the BFRO. He's a really nice guy, one of the good guys, and he's an airline mechanic. And he gave me everything to look up to see if there was a chopper on record that night in my area, and there was nothing here. Nothing showed up flying over the house. Nothing came to the house. But my wife was a witness to it. My daughter-in-law was a witness to it. It shook my house. It was crazy.
This is important, actually, because when other witnesses are involved, like wives and daughter-in-laws, and that are really not subscribing to what you do, it validates what you're doing. And it's very important, because when you get into this whole cryptid thing right now, and it gets really, really weird, and you're like, okay, am I losing my mind at certain points? Because you question some of this stuff, but thankfully you get, your wife or Chris's wife at the time, like, get it out of the house. Like he has control over it. You got to go now.
Right.
He said no.
She wants no part of it. And we've seen two crafts together. Maria wants nothing to do it. We had a craft a week later after the helicopter was here that was over my house, the size of a football field above my house. We were going out to vote. And I walked out and I looked up and I'm like, holy cow, what is that? Maria comes out the front door. She gets to get in the thing. I said, Maria, look at that. And she looked up. Oh, that's just a plane. Then I start walking down the driveway and Maria gets eyes. Maria, look at this. Come out here and look at this. She looks up. She goes, oh my God, what is that? I'm like, what do you think that is? She goes, I have never in my entire life seen anything like that. There's people there's people out in the driveway taking groceries out of their car, talking next to each other while me and Maria are out there pointing at the sky and say, look, look, look. None of them turned around. It was like we weren't even there. They didn't even turn around. This vessel didn't make a noise. It floated. It banked up on its side like that and turned. And then he came up, he went up the hill, we got in the car, we watched it, we chased it up the road, it went back into the woods, and boom, gone. And to this day, Maria still talks about it. She just can't put it together. It was the crazy. I've seen Sasquatch and I've seen this vessel, and I said, and if the aliens are going to come down and want to fight, and they're going to bring these ships, forget it. Forget it.
Yeah. What shape was that craft again?
It was like an octagon flat cigar. It wasn't a cigar, typical cigar, but it was a big and it was all triangles, and it was bronze, a brass color, copper color, and it had a bright light in the middle on the front, and it had a red and blue light on the back, and it didn't make a noise. It just floated. It hovered.
Wow.
Hovered. It was incredible.
Because it almost sounds like the same technology like the Tic Tac, where it's not making a lot of sound. It's just basically, as you said, it's the object and it's just moving at incredible speeds.
And that puzzles me is why didn't anybody else turn around and look at it while we were saying, look at this thing? That's the puzzling part. I don't think they've seen it. I don't even think they've seen us. I think we were in that moment in time. We were in that.
Supposed to see
we were the ones that were supposed to see that. Yep. Nobody else.
You were supposed to see it.
Me, that was supposed to see it. Not, but Maria again got hooked up in it. Maria wants nothing to do with this. She wants nothing to do with any of this stuff, and I feel bad.
Too late. Sorry, Maria, too late.
So, and things have just been progressing. I mean, I know it might sound crazy to you guys, but the truth is the truth.
Yeah, in Strangeland, he brings that up, and that was one of the things too, because we've talked about Project Bluebeam before, and this is one of those. Do you it's really hard because one of the things like with Project Bluebeam, the theory is that there's going to be projections, and in people's mind, you're going to believe it's a real object, and so that's what. So when you ask these people, do you think it was real? Do you think it was a projection? It's hard because that was the whole point of if this actually works, you will not be able to distinguish between real and a projection. So I mean, it's hard to think, but do you feel it was physical? For sure, physical.
Maria was seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
I've always everything I talk with. I've always had a witness with me. I've never, if I saw it solo, I would have never said anything to anybody. If it was just, I would have just,
And
I would have kept it to a couple of my buddies. But with Maria seeing it, I had a witness with me, and she'll vouch for me. She'll vouch for me hands down that she's seen the whole thing.
and if it was a projection, then the other people would have noticed it.
Yeah,
They're going to notice. I mean, like, I know his area. I've been up there. I've had my own craft. I had something the size of Giant Stadium flow over my car, and she wasn't my wife at the time, but she was hanging out the moonroof going, "What is it?" And it was physical. It literally changed the sound as it went over my car. I'm going 65, 70 miles an hour, and it just everything stopped. It was like quiet, and it just encompassed the whole thing, and it's no way it was a projection. I mean, I watched the whole sequence, and as fast as it comes, right, Chris? As fast as it goes.
Wow.
Bye-bye.
yeah.
I went back into the wood going.
I think what happens, and I think I mentioned this to you at one point, Chris, is that Chris right now has gone from he had stuff in him. He has the potential there. I think the Sasquatch, where he had that first encounter, knew it, sensed something about him, like this one's different. Let's go talk to him, and it allowed him to open up. And now I think he vibrates at a higher frequency, so he's moved up. And because you vibrate at a higher frequency, you see things now that nobody else can see. And all the reason why they can't see it is they're so clouded in their minds with standard stuff of the day and BS. You're now higher. You're a higher being. You're a higher self. Call it the third eye,
Yeah.
I've gotten names and voices. I had Natari. I had a Sasquatch face come to me in a dream or meditation, and the name Natari came to me. I was asking after the helicopter left the backyard here. I asked him, like, that picture of the like stuff that I'll just say this. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in the back here, like that picture of the coyote leg I sent you. On Messenger there or through the emails, that was left at my back door for a present because I traded with these guys for 6 years at an area I called Larry's, and we traded back and forth. I got stones and feathers and a bunch of really cool stuff happened. But after the helicopter, I wanted to know if they were, there it is. That was left at my back door. Now look at the blood. That was at my back door like that. That was freshly ripped off the dog. Maria looked out the back door. She goes, "What is that by the back door?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So I go downstairs. I come out right here. I'm like, "Holy cow, it's a freaking coyote leg."
Yep.
I was sick, and I couldn't make it back to the trading area for a month. They came to me, and they brought that here for me.
That's the crazy part about this story. They came to him.
So I threw that leg into the woods, and I went to get the guys because I work where I live. I went to get the guys here at work, and we come right back down, and I show them the leg, and now the leg is gone. Just gone. 10 minutes, gone. And there's nothing here in Connecticut that's going to grab a coyote leg and take it with them that you wouldn't see, or hear.
Yeah, I'll bring up some of these, like some of the photos that you showed too.
So that's a nest from Larry's. That was the area that we traded with them. That was 6x9. Can you see the divot in the middle where it would just lay? Those are all broken pine branches, and there's like a bird nest right in the middle. That's where they would. We found 2 of those up there. That tree right there is called the compass tree. You know why? Because it's magnetic north at the X. We were coming up one day, and we were checking it out, and the sun was coming up right between the X, right in the middle of that X. And I told Larry, I said, "Larry, next time we come up here, remind me to bring the compass." So when we came up there the next time, we put the compass right on the middle of that X, and it was magnetic north. While we were looking at that, in back of us, we got 2 big knocks on the tree in back of us. Whack, whack. So they knew they're in back of us watching us. The next week we come back, that thing right there is on the ground. It was taken out of all those vines, and it was never there. Both gifted stones, the one on the right is the first gifted stone that we ever got. It was left at a tree that we visit. We did pattern hikes all the time. and the left one is at the X at the entrance at Larry's area where we traded with him. And that was another stone that was left for us.
Notice what they are. It's quartz.
Yeah, both were never there. We have all the video proof. Everything I'm telling you again, you could go on my channel. Even when we were checking out the compass tree, you can go and see that on my channel. Even the knocks. You can hear the knocks, and Larry reacts to them. There's the best footprint we ever found up there. We tried casting it, but I couldn't. It was in a spring, so it would just keep on filling up with water. I got the. Hold on 1 second. This is the actual print from that. See how bad it is? But look at how deep.
Yep.
What impression is? There's the big toe area. I mean, I don't know how to hold it so you guys can really see it good. But this is
just don't drop it.
Yeah. What it would look.
It's good. Don't drop it.
Look
Yeah.
at
It's a huge
Wow.
foot. Yeah.
So that is that foot casted that you just showed.
You say it's about a size 10, 11?
13. That one's a size 13. 13 and a half, I believe. Yep,
Yeah.
13 and a half.
There's a 13 and a half. Yep.
Yep.
It's roughly
Nice.
about a 6 to 7 foot Sasquatch.
Now that print's hard to see, but that's a 15-inch print right there. You can't really see it. Yeah, you're right in the right area. Yep, right there. Yeah, it's right there.
Yep. I think.
Yeah, that's a 15-inch print at an area that we call up the road. I found a 4-print trackway. That video I sent you, TikTok. That's the trackway at that same place.
Yeah, I think this is.
Yep.
This might be the. Yep. This is the video you show where the one print, and then there's like every 5 feet. There's another one.
5-foot gate. Yep. See
Yeah,
that?
I was.
And no casting material in the bag. And then it poured that night.
Do you have a LiDAR on you yet? The LiDAR camera on your phone?
No, I don't have Apple.
Uh,
I'm a Android guy.
I know, but if you find somebody has a 12, just buy it. If they want to, if they getting rid of it, just take it. For the,
Yeah, no, I got you.
yeah.
That's why I said the $600, you can get a nice one. But see those heavy footfalls right down there? Boom, boom, boom. And then he comes to that edge, and then there's nothing. The footprints stop. Everything's over. Can't find another print anywhere.
So that kind of lends to a question. But oh man, I'm gonna have to try to figure out who said it about portals. Now, do you think that there's something to the portal thing, or do you think it's something with the UFO activity, kind of like the, for lack of better terms, beam me up, Scotty? Like you're going, and then you basically, boom, beamed up, transported up, whatever.
Yeah, this is all really, really new to me. But the people that I'm starting to talk to, and I've learned that I'm not alone of what's going on. Portals, I just think there's a spot. That's a 15-inch print at Larry's. We asked for that print to be left. That's the page. That's my new page on our website. It's going to be called 369. We are going to take every report. If there's a Bigfoot on a unicorn chasing an orb down Main Street, we are going to take those reports. We're going to take UFO involved, because BFRO only takes the Bigfoot cases. We're going to take we're going to put them on here, but we're starting a sound project first, and we're actually looking for 50 recordings. So if anybody has sounds or, vocals from Sasquatch that they would like to contribute, I can leave you my email address, and I would love to put them on the website.
Yeah, and since you just mentioned that, I was just in the process of bringing that up too.
Yeah, and another
you
thing,
have your website here as well.
Tell them about when I think it was Larry that noticed that there was no sound or things that were weird. When you
Right. So that day that trackway we just were at, it was 95 degrees, 100% humidity, and that's a swamp. So we're getting eaten up by deer flies. It's just sweat pouring down our bodies, but we're tracking them. We're finding a print here and a print here and a print there. And then we get up to this trackway. But as soon as we got to that little knoll where that trackway is and where it leveled out, the guy I was with goes, the forest just doesn't seem the same anymore. And I'm like, yeah, I was waiting for you to say it because I noticed it. He goes, there's no more bugs. There's no more humidity. It's like we're in a whole different part of the forest. And it did. It just like there was nothing. It was like you were in a whole different place. Did we just enter a place where he was just there and it was still open? And that's why we experienced that? I mean, these are just thoughts that come to your head. I don't know. It's very strange to me still. I'm not.
And that's one of the other theories that I don't know. In a way, I kind of entertain it too. It's where the thinning of the veil, like this, they may be from, parallel to things where it's just, and then we get those moments where there's a thinning and you see them. And then that's why there's those brief interactions, and it explains also why you never find dead bodies. You never find these things just because we're not on the same plane. And so when that veil kind of goes away, they vanish. And that's why when you go out there, you might see a print, but you see these prints, but then that's why I said they stop, is because literally that was the point that the veil either closed. And so in a way, I kind of like that theory too. I mean,
I'm on board with that theory 100%.
Yep.
The veil is thinning and there's more and more stuff coming through. It's just not all Bigfoot. There's more and more stuff. There's more dogmen. There's sightings. There's more everything. Little people sightings. They're starting to become popular again. A lot of people are seeing them. A lot of stuff going on these days, and it's hard to explain.
Well, go ahead, Brent. Sorry.
I don't know anybody up in your neck of the woods have those like little people sightings or dogman sightings?
Not
or
that
other sightings other than
I hear dogman sightings like out in Nevada and those areas. That's where I'm hearing them at. Here, I've never. Nobody in New England talks about this stuff. That's what's so hard about here.
That is a problem.
Because nobody will talk about it. They won't. You can even ask Wes Germer on Sasquatch Chronicles. He'll tell you nobody in New England will talk about it. They just won't.
They keep pretty quiet in New England. They really do. I don't know if it goes back to when they first started settling here or whatever it is, but down south they'll just talk about anything.
Well, you got to keep up with the Joneses here. You can't ruin your reputation. Seeing a Bigfoot. But I'm really with the veil thing. I think the UFOs come from that same. Everybody, that door that opens, they all know how to use it.
Yeah, because I've mentioned this on several times. I mean, it's almost like I really like the show Fringe, and that was one of those things where it's just like the alternate, universe. And it's because in a way, for me, I don't know. It's like Occam's razor type thing. It seems more like a simpler, more logical explanation for why we have stuff like the one-offs, the Mothmans, the Van Meter visitors. You have these cryptids that are seen, but then they're never seen again.
Right.
Is that, and that would be something where a thinning of the veil, it gets through and then it disappears. And that's why, because I love those stories where you have every day, you have the banker, it's not just the town drunk, right. You have everybody, so, you've got us, you got one of the guys here on the screen right now that sees it. And it's like, it's not just some crazy person, most people would be like, okay, that makes sense, because I mean, why would Bob the banker, I like to use Bob, why would Bob say this? He has no reason to make himself sound crazy.
Right. Well, look at Tesla and Einstein, two of the smartest people ever to walk the planet, knew and realized that portals are real. They knew that portals were real. They knew how to make them. They made a battleship disappear.
Yep.
They made a battleship disappear and reappear. They didn't plan it that way, but it happened. Tesla. Could you guys just imagine if we went with Tesla instead of what's his?
We'd be flying right now.
Yeah, we would be flying cars. We would all be in free electricity. There would be no and munitions into the atmosphere. There would be no global warming. It would have been all energy from the earth. It would be don't
blame J.P. Morgan and Edison.
Yeah. That's because it was the rubber and the copper. You know what makes lines? Copper. What rubber coats them? Trees, the lumber. There's three big industries that were going to be shut down if Tesla's got chosen. And
I mean, hey, what was it J.P. Morgan saying? It's like, how do I put a meter on it?
Right.
You know, if I can't meter it, you know, it's like, how am I going to make money off this? And that was the whole thing. And it's like, no, it's like, but imagine where we would be in the 1800s. You know, he's already coming up with the concept of what a few years ago was a cool, you know, just remote wireless charger. You could just set it on there. And it's like, this guy thought about this back in the 1800s. This is ridiculous.
And designed it. You could do it. He could do it.
Yeah.
He was sending electricity underground for 4 miles and lighting up light bulbs in the earth from his tower in Colorado. And you know what's underneath that tower? There's another thing you guys should all start paying attention to is aquifers.
Yep.
In your areas, because the pyramids were built over aquifers. Tesla's towers were built over aquifers. My area here is a protected aquifer in Connecticut. The Green Swamp where we go, aquifer. All these areas where there's Sasquatch activity, there's underground ancient water. Pay attention to that while you're out there. I'll give you a little tidbit there. It took me a while to figure that out, but once we started reading about Tesla and all this stuff, Tesla was the man. I mean, I was only graduated high school, so I can't get that technical about Tesla, but the things that I've read about him is just the
quartz. You know, I mean, there's a reason why the gifted stones to you were quartz.
Yep.
You know, there is significance, you know, to that thing, because that isn't natural known, you know,
battery energy source.
And so this is one that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So when I had that interaction in the Green Swamp, 2 weeks later, we came up here to Connecticut and we had the same exact thing happen at the top of a mountain here in Connecticut. The same meter reaction, the rock throws, everything to the T that happened in Florida 2 weeks earlier happened in Connecticut with the meters, everything. And the meter has been going crazy here ever since. I've had multiple times where it's gone off the charts. It has to read over 16.0 if anybody's interested in getting one of these meters. It's a
tri-field.
It's a tri-field meter, yep, but I don't know where mine is. But it's got to, if it registers 16 point and above, there's no explanation for it. There's not a radio signal, it's not a cell tower, it's nothing. Only thing it could be is come from an above drone, a military drone tracking you, is what I was told. So
you could also use something similar if you don't have the RF meter. You use one of these Bofang radios, and you tune it to a specific frequency. And I have the frequency, and you leave it on it. You'll know when you're hitting the spot because it'll just start kicking in the sound, and you'll start hearing stuff transmission wise.
All right. So it is a vibration thing. I think it's we need to pay attention to it. I think, and people will say, oh, no, these guys can't do that. These guys can come and go whenever they want. They're not here. If they're here, they do what they hunt, they fish, they sleep, they defecate, they do everything a normal flesh and blood animal will do, or person or whatever, but they're not here all the time. Because if they were here all the time, we would be able to find them all the time. They're not that elusive. They're they're not that elusive. In my opinion, again, this is just my opinion. I have,
I think that's one you just, in a way too, because that's always been the mystery. Like when we first started this out, that was one of the questions we always ask people. It's like, with all the modern technology, how come we can't see them? You know, with like a drone, you should be able to just fly that up there and you could just, you know, you'd be like, okay, there's one. So that thinning of the veil, that would make sense to where 1 minute, 1 second they're there, and then they're not.
Right.
You know, you see them walk and then they're gone.
So one of the big things is, and I've said this before in the past, is the best way to look at it is, and people won't understand it now because all they do is they tune into a station. But in our days, we had to actually tune in the station. So the thinning of the veil is just tuning into the station frequency. So if you wanted to go to 99 Rock, PLR, you tune to 99.1, and that will get you that music. This is why that's the thinning of the veil. Some people are able to tune that frequency. It's a giant tuner life. And some people just are stuck on like really crappy, disco music.
No,
they don't get past it.
It's kind of, I was looking this up, just kind of verified before I was talking about it too. There's somebody who talked about it where cedar trees will vibrate and they can cause other ones, because you had mentioned prior to the show about cedar trees and water. So Julia just said that water is an amplifier. What if that is why it is? It's because it has that, that vibration. They may like it because either that's the frequency that they like. There could be something about that where the frequency of those, it's amplified through the water, and that would be why you would get that activity, or like you were saying, why there's so much around cedar trees and water.
You're just gonna blow your mind right now. All the EMF, all the recordings that I've been getting, Al asked me, he goes, why are you always near a brook? How come you're always near the water when you record? I'm like, Al, that recording is in the middle of a swamp in the wintertime. There's no running water. I am picking up the aquifers on my recorders.
Yep.
Why I'm picking up EVPs. I can play you one right now. It's got to load it up if you want to hear it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. I'll play it right now. I don't know if you guys will hear. Let's just start it off. Can you hear that?
You hear that? Yeah, it sounds like it goes, hey, like that.
No.
Coming from up here.
Hear the running water?
You gotta be careful.
Wow, I heard it that time. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
I heard the hey.
Right there. There's running water. You could really hear it right there.
Oh, yeah.
My ear. Now those two hays are not us. And I was leading the pack. I heard a different hay than the guy in the back of the pack heard the first hay, and we didn't hear it. We're 12 feet apart, and we're hearing different sounds, and it's picking up the aquifers.
Wow.
And on all of them, they're in my videos. It's absolutely crazy, man. I'm glad she brought that up, or else I would have totally forgot about that recording to play.
Yep.
But ever since Florida, I never picked up EVPs. Ever since the Green Swamp stuff went down, we're picking up EVPs. We picked up a help. I got out of the car, getting my backpack all leveled up. I turned the recorder on, so after review, I get home. Right when I turn the recorder on, you hear this, help. So an hour and a half later, again, you hear this, help. And it's farther away, but it's still there. And I didn't put one and one together, but Al did. Al calls me up. He says, you know what the scary part about that is? I'm like, no, it followed you.
Yep.
Hour and a half into your hike.
Wow.
Yeah. See, I got the heebie-jeebies again, man. I love this stuff. I live for it now. This just makes it so. It opened up a whole nother world, man. Because the flesh and blood thing was starting to get it's very, very boring. It was starting to get boring. So
you were supposed to adapt. That's what an ascension is. You're going through an ascension. We've had that discussion a couple of times, and it's important because you need, if you go from point A to point B too quickly, it'll really mess you up. Talking about, post-traumatic stress syndrome, but you have to go through these little steps, and then you get, one foot in front of the other, and eventually it just gets better and better and better because you just start getting more knowledge and more information, and the people you hang out with, and you can trust and whatever. Everybody enlightens everybody.
Yeah,
no one's an expert, but everybody enlightens people from their own personal experiences.
Yep, it's I know what people are going to say before they say it. No, just not all the time, but it happens. Stuff like that is just weird, man.
Yep.
But I wouldn't trade it for the world because the truth is out there and we need to find it. Just on my show last week, I did a couple weeks ago. I had a guy on there. His name is Don Monroe, and he was with MK Davis at this cave in the middle of Death Valley. And he met a guy there, and the guy told him a story and asked him to pray with him. He says, "Will you pray with me?" And Don said, "Sure, I'll pray with you." So he said a prayer with him. The guy shook his hand. He says, "Now my troubles are yours." Right? This guy takes. Yeah,
I would have freaked out.
I got a problem here. What is it? It's your problem. Ah.
I would have freaked out.
Well,
hey, can you pray with me?
It gets better. Listen to this.
Tell you, right? Nobody's there. The town. MK takes out the camcorder to film Don because Don's his Bic lighter was his Bic shaver was so hot it melted in his pocket. It was so hot in the desert. He goes to Don's eyes. Don's eyes has turned into snake eyes. For over a month, he had reptile eyes. After looking, and it's all on my show. You could see the reptile eyes, and he went to the doctors. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. It took over a month for his eyes to go back to normal. Yeah.
Really?
I
It's
have
on
them right here.
my channel.
If I can get them.
It shows everything. And it shows what happened. He's seen a blue orb come out of the cave first that he was sitting in. So they think that guy released something that was in that cave they were checking out. There's a whole story to it. You should really check it out. It's really
it made me think, because there's always the reptilian. You always have people talking about the reptilian race, that you could see it through people's eyes. What if that's more of a prevalent phenomenon? That's why you're seeing like what happened to him, where it's like you have those snake type eyes. What if this is something that's happening to other people, and that's when we're capturing on this, where people are going, see, it's a lizard people. Well, maybe it's the same thing like what happened to him. Because obviously, I'm going to assume he's not a lizard person. He's not a lizard person.
Right.
Right. No.
So
eyes returned to normal after a month.
Yeah. So do you think that there's possibility that maybe that is kind of a more prevalent phenomenon, and that's why you have people like that doing those things, like when you see them on the YouTube videos before they get taken down?
Right. Yeah. No, I seen those too. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm going to show you the eyes right now.
All right.
With you, Chris.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It'll blow your mind.
Can you see it, guys?
Nope.
I'm sharing it right now. I'm showing it tab. There it is. If you can't see it,
It's better not be porn.
No, I see it up. I don't know why you guys don't see it.
There it is.
It's there. Look at that eye.
Look at his eye.
Slit, like a lizard.
That's what his eyes turn into after that interaction with that guy at the truck. And the guy had 30 pounds of ice that didn't melt in the sun in a bag that they gave him too.
See, this is where listening to Coast to Coast AM comes in handy. So do you think this has any connection to like the Mel's Hole story? Do you remember that where he went down to the southwest, met with the native tribe, and they did that ritual, and they created that ice that wouldn't melt. They found that in the hole, and that's when because they encountered that creature, and they had this ice that wouldn't melt, but when you touched it, it like had an effect on people. It was like that type of thing. So that's why I'm wondering. It's like you have ice that won't melt. He turns into those snake style eyes. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, this is stuff that you read in the tabloids, but this is like you're finding out now that we're going, doing a little investigating and research, that this is really going down. This is really happening in the woods. I'd have my house blessed. My babies live with my grandchildren live with me, and they were seeing monsters. We brought something home with me, and I had to have my house blessed. I had scratches on my arm. Brian seen them at Al's birthday party.
Yep.
3 scratches across the inside of my arm. I had to have my house blessed. But she told us that it was nothing evil. We walked across somewhere that we should have never walked across. There was a curse or something on that property. And whatever it was attached to you, and you brought it home with you. But we got ever since that day that they came and blessed the house, there has been no more monster talk in the house.
And I also said something about the story of the Karens in front of the cave.
Just tell them about the
Karen's in
There's
front of the cave.
Yeah, there's something bound in the cave.
With
Yeah.
what's his name?
there was like a ritual spot in front of that cave they were at before they got the eyes. MK was at that, and he found the pit, and there was a pit there, and it had a point in the middle of it, and there was footprints. There was lizard prints. It was like a big dinosaur three-toed print that they casted. But Don was in the mouth of the cave, looking up, and MK's taking pictures, and all of a sudden this blue orb appears at the top of the cave, and all these octagon rainbow lights are all in the cave, and all of a sudden the next picture, everything's gone. And Don turned his head. Don watched that orb leave the cave. So what they're thinking is that the guy released whatever was in that cave. He had Don, because he knew Don was bound to the cave, and Don released it, and it came with Don.
You released the mummy.
But
yeah.
I starting to find out that this is common. This is more common than you realize, because people don't talk about this stuff. MK's been sitting on this for years, and he hasn't shown anybody.
It's kind of hard to talk about it, isn't it, Chris? Think about it.
Well, Don didn't want it out because he felt funny of people seeing him with those eyes. He think people would think different of him.
Yeah, and then hasn't he had like not the greatest luck since that moment?
Oh yeah, he got bit by 4 snakes that never killed him, all venomous snakes. His house burnt. All bunch of crazy stuff went down since then.
Jeez.
So when anybody in the desert comes and says, "Can you pray with me?" say, "Fuck off."
Fuck off. No.
Yeah. Yeah, you just do the whole thing. Nope.
This is the same reason why in investigations, why we like, I'm a little girl, you want to play? No, get the hell out of here, Satan. I'm not. No. Al knows. I'm like, little girls, we're out. We're done. Kids,
Yeah.
done. Yep.
Well, that's like what you're saying with your site. You know, hopefully people come forward. I mean, and start telling some of these stories and put photographs, because no matter what, you're the one that experienced it. You can't tell somebody that they haven't felt something, because you can't. There's no way to measure that. So it's just, if you say, I felt, the back of my neck, I felt the stuff, I saw this thing, you can't mock somebody from that. I mean, that's one of the greatest things, where people, the negativity from that, you have to accept them. The only time like I call into question, like we talked about before, is when it becomes like a constant reoccurring thing. Then it's like, for me, in my mind, there needs to be more proof. Like the photos that you showed of the prints. That's the kind of stuff I expect to start seeing, because if you're seeing activity all the time, there is got to be something else. Broken branches, food sources, something has to be there, because things don't just show up to show up. Animals they have 2 basic functions: procreate and eat.
Mm-hmm.
That's their main 2 functions.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong?
Yeah, and that's so. At some point, there's going to be a bedding area, some activity there, or something that shows that they were eating something from a tree, eating something from the ground, something. There's going to be proof of something, because why would an animal be there? Right. It would make any sense for them not to just be walking around just like, hey, what's up? You have any of that Monster coffee?
Right. I'm choosing for that Monster.
Yeah, you're like, I don't understand it. He was like, asking. He was like,
But it's been how many years since the Patty film? How many years?
Oh wow, that was 7. Was that 70s?
60 years, 50, 60 years now.
Yeah.
What have we gotten since? Thinking that these things are flesh and blood. What have we captured since thinking these things are flesh and blood? Nothing but prints and knocking on trees. That's it.
And the rocks. Yeah, I mean, because that was like
that was the biggest thing for me, as a researcher. It's like, first of all, every interaction and experience with these creatures will make you reassess what you thought was original there. It'll make you question all the time. Like, well, this just happened. So, but the only thing I can think of in relationship to Patterson and what's going on now, everything now is electronic. Patterson wasn't.
Right.
So we need to bring Photomat back because people need to go out and do Bigfoot squatching or whatever you want to call it with real cameras, spring-mounted cameras, not like electronic focus and stuff.
Yeah, I'll tell Maria it's hummingbird feeder.
Yep.
You guys hear about the hummingbird feeder?
Huh.
So we had a sighting here in my town, which never happens, but it happens to be. Now, listen, the property that I traded with these guys for, I was there for 7 years, and the property got sold. Can't get back up there again. I almost cried. Tell you the truth, I almost cried because they were following us the last year. So we had a sighting here in town, and it was at the end of the river that feeds where we go, and it comes all the way into my town. And at the end of the brook is where they had the sighting was. 2 days later, Maria's telling me that the lid off of her hummingbird feeder out in front of the house has been popped, and all the hummingbird juice has been drank. But all the little flowers on the hummingbird feeder have been plucked off and put in a pile underneath on the ground. So she does this for 4 straight days. The same exact thing. The hummingbird water's gone. Pile of 5 are on the ground. This last day, one of the flowers is gone. She comes in. She goes, "You better tell your buddies to give me back my flower because I know they took that flower." Like, well, you'll probably get it back, right? So the next day, she gets her flower back. They bring it back. 5 flowers now on the ground, and the hummingbird water. That night is the night when the helicopter came. The 5th day, the helicopter showed up. The next day, guess what stopped? The hummingbird water stopped totally. No more drinking the water. No more plucking of the flowers. Nothing. It all just stopped.
So for me, like as you're telling that story, the thing that popped in my head is that it sounds like most likely government agencies know how to track them. And when they show up, that's when they come in. And as soon as like you said, as soon as the black helicopter scene, it's kind of like now there's a threat. So how squirrels and stuff, they take off when the hawk is swirling around. They're not just. So it makes it seem like that type of thing. Like when there's enough activity, they're able to triangulate, and then that's when the black helicopters, that stuff starts showing up, because that seems, as we've been talking tonight, that seems to be a recurring theme. Activity, black helicopter, no activity.
So then the next week, that's when I did the meditation and asked if they were still out back. And that's where I got the face and the name Natari. But also in the backyard, I got a Tupperware container and a stuffed monkey, the same stuffed monkey and Tupperware container that we used at the gift area. There's no way that anybody else knows what we used up there except for Larry and myself and the Sasquatch that were there, or whatever we were. I can't say a Sasquatch, I never saw it. Whatever we were trading with knew what we used, and it was on my backyard now. So I took the Tupperware container and I hung the monkey in the tree, and the monkey in the tree sat there for another 3 weeks. And then I had another meditation, a shorter little black furry thing with hair, no hair around its eyes, jumps up on my chest and says, "Archibald," just like that. And I wake up out of that meditation, right?
Huh.
Next 2 days, no squirrels, no birds, no nothing at Maria's feeders. No animals at the feeders. On the 3rd night, we wake up the next morning, the squirrels are back, the birds are back, but what's gone out of the tree in the backyard? The stuffed monkey from the first time now has been taken back.
Wow.
Yeah. They followed you.
You can't make this stuff up, man. You just can't make it up.
And I always thought, because of my opinion of these creatures, after my experiences, they're able to go from flesh and blood into interdimensional. So there's a whole variety of spectrum of different energy signatures in between that. Technically, if it would be in that. So I think the government knows how to read the signatures, or when a gate opens up, they get an alert that something's coming in. I think they're very well aware of interdimensional travel and who's doing it and why they're doing it.
Yeah, and that's Chris said the same thing. The question is like, I would be surprised. I mean, I'm a cinephile, so I'm a huge about always movie quotes. It's like Predator 2. All of a sudden here comes Gary Busey in the silver foil, outfits with his crew, rolling up in their modified, RVs, tracking these things. And that's what it almost seems like. It's like they know it's there and they swoop in.
Right.
And they try to get it, but they're like one step ahead of them that we know of. Even more said, there's probably a good chance that they've actually captured some of them too.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to, who knows? It could be a million and one things. But 2 weeks ago, they opened up our screen door and left me a dead bird in between the two doors. They opened up the screen door, dead bird in between the two doors, and shut it. And I walked out the next day going to work and stepped on the bird. It was in the door.
Yelling at the cat. It was actually the kid from the other one, but your poor cat's getting blamed.
And then Maria she has a hummingbird light, and they were taking the hummingbird, the little light you stick in the ground. Well, they were taking the hummingbird light and putting it on the ground exactly underneath where she used to hang the hummingbird feeder during the spring and summer. Then she took it down, so they were taking that little light and putting it right on the ground where they were putting the flowers. So they're still out back. I just don't know what's going on. I'm waiting for, like I said, my eye just got all healed up, so I'm going to go get in the woods here and start seeing what's going on out back here.
Nice.
Are you one of the hunters that keep your locations top secret, or if somebody wants to come hunt with you, they can? Or
yeah, somebody can come with me. I don't have problems with that. I won't tell anybody where to go because you can't really. I'm off trail, so even if I told them where to go, they wouldn't know where to go. I could tell them go to People's Forest here in Connecticut. Go to People's State Forest.
Yeah,
that's
huge.
my active areas. With really active areas, had many stone throws up there. Everything I've caught in mouth pops. Those. You ever hear those pops? I got those all on recordings, and but they'll never find it because I go off trail. I found a fake fireplace in the middle of nowhere at People's Forest, and they break little sticks and they leave them on the different sides of the pit, like someone's going to get ready to build a fire. There hasn't been a fire in there in 7 years. Nobody even knows where the spot is. It's just cool stuff like that.
His locations are great. I know them personally because I spent 12 years of my life basically up in that area, and they're fantastic. And growing up, again, like I said, I thought everything was Pacific Northwest, but knowing what I know now, I'm like, oh my God, I miss like 12 years of opportunity to go, oh, Bigfoot. People wouldn't have believed me anyhow.
Yeah. But I won't give it up. I'll keep on going. And hopefully get some answers. I mean, like, again, this is all an IMO. I can't tell you guys one way or the other because I'm not seeing what's throwing the rocks at us. I don't know what the meters are picking up. I'm not seeing it. So until I see it, then I'll be able to share. But I know whatever it is throws stones at you at the same time.
Well, I think that's the point. It, like for a lot of people, it's I kind of shake my head when people call themselves experts. There's how can you become an expert when there isn't even a settled science behind it? We don't. I mean, it's one of those things. You could call yourself a gorilla expert because we have gorillas in the zoo. We can test these things. We know what they like to eat, how they like to act. You can seal these things. But when you go out to think, I'm a Bigfoot expert. How? You got to show me the one that you physically, if you tell me all about this thing, well, this is what I think. Well, exactly that. That's what you think. That's not how you scientific field. It's one of those. I always laugh when people. It's like, no, you can be an expert on how to do this and this and this. But when you actually call you're an expert in a field, it's like there has to be a set of guidelines. I mean, I wish that there'd be a way to figure this out, but unfortunately, until one's in physical captivity or in an ice box that people can, everybody can study, it's really hard to have, because I said, we don't even, does anybody really know much details, like even how, the family structure, these things. I mean, it's like, we know there's juvenile ones, but for all we know, like I said, is it like a giraffe, when they're born, they're almost, large. I said, they don't start out tiny, they're actually already almost like a fully grown in height, like those 6-7 footers. I mean, that could be a fairly new, like a 1-year-old Sasquatch.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you don't know. You could have one that's, size impaired. It could be 4 foot with a 22-inch footprint. You don't know. You didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Looks like one, like one of the cartoon figures.
Hobbit Squatch.
Yeah, it's got a big, huge foot, but it's only 4 foot.
Great
You
babe.
don't know that it's 800 pounds because it's got a 20-inch footprint. You don't know that. Nobody.
That is a good question, Al.
I mean,
Yeah, does anybody know the biggest Bigfoot that's ever been, reported?
There's a guy that Ron Moorhead interviewed over in the Pacific Northwest who said he saw King Kong. And they said, no, seriously, like how big was this? And he said King Kong. And he was talking like 20 feet high. King Kong.
yeah.
I mean, it
could be. It's like the thinning of the veil. It could be something like that where you actually can see through this thing. Obviously we don't have a casting of that footprint.
No, he had a 27.5-inch print on the ground by him.
Yeah.
Wow.
God, that's
27.5 inches. And Chris was talking about the gate being 5 by 5, and if you roughly guesstimate whatever a gate is, you double it, it's usually of an individual for the most part on average. So you're talking about a 10-foot, probably around a 10-foot, tall creature making a 5-foot gate.
Right. And if it was going to continue forward, a 10-foot creature would have broken every branch all the way down that hill, and there was not a print or a branch broken. It just stopped, just ended. So,
and has there been any, as we're wrapping it up here, there's one of the questions I was wanting to get to, because we had one over in, I want to say it was Tampa Bay area, the infamous hoax, the penguin, where he was the guy that he had the footprints, he had the metal shoes, and so he was putting these giant penguin footprints in the sand. Yeah, it was one of those we talked about, and it's an infamous hoax thing, because for the longest time everybody was talking about this cryptid, this penguin, that all of a sudden these footprints would show up in the beach, and that's where I was wondering does anybody know of any reported like actual hoaxer that has gone out and done these things in trying to do that type of thing, where intentionally making these footprints, and then because I don't know if I've ever heard anybody actually called out like Bob, I am for this one, Bob the hoaxer, when it came to big footprints.
right. I don't know any personally, but there used to be a guy on YouTube a couple of years ago that he would dress his son in a little like a Chewbacca outfit, and he would film him walking through the forest, and he would always come up and say, "Oh, got another one on film today," and everybody would write on there, "Oh, your boy's in a different costume today." I forgot what his name was.
There were a couple of people that have been called out in relationship to Florida skunk ape, Louisiana rougarou, and a couple other these type of fakes in the 70s, because there's money to be made back then. So like the internet, there's still money. You get a couple of prints, people interview you, you charge the tour, whatever it is. And there's a guy actually in New York State who's a dog trainer who is absolutely batshit crazy, and said that his dad gave him a frozen Sasquatch.
Oh, okay. Yes, I remember that story.
Not his name, but he's freaking nuts. And at one episode of the Sasquatch, he literally fried up the Sasquatch penis and ate it. Not kidding. What he says of the Sasquatch penis, and then he felt sick afterwards. But that's a great print right there.
Look at that bad boy.
That's a great print.
Whew.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm. Shit.
And that was a couple people have said, Al was talking about that. Laura just brought up those things about the size of those creatures. Do you think that might have anything to do with the wild man legends of the native tribes, where it's just because we have like the Kandahar giant, we have these ones where there is a modern thing. Is there a chance that some of these ones could be a hairy wild man that we're seeing? And it could,
Hairy
especially
giant or hairy wild man.
Well, like that's kind of both. Yeah, kind of both. I mean, you could have these multiple things that are showing up that potentially are something other than a Bigfoot, but it's still going to be a giant. It's still going to be something that would be almost still in the cryptid, paranormal thing, because it's not, it's not known. Because like the Kandahar giant, we know a little bit about it, but we know it was huge. Red hair, hairy, and at night it would still look, big and hairy.
I don't know. I know there's feral humans out there.
Yeah. They're in the state of Florida. The most part.
Virginia. And
get enough meth and everybody will turn feral.
You're taking my thing I posted today, Craig.
I was mentioning about somebody up in his neck of the woods that had a 35-inch print.
Yeah.
And I think it was really an Italian sandwich, but not a 35-inch. That's a big print. I mean,
that is. I mean, you think about that. I mean,
that's
you got a
freaking print.
Yeah, if you're talking a 3-foot print. I mean, imagine this. The pace. The step on that one. I mean, that would be what, 10 feet?
Mm-hmm.
More than that.
I mean, it'd be.
What size was the femur bone in Joe Taylor's museum that he casted from that giant? I think the femur bone was like 8-9 feet, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Just in the leg.
Yeah, rest in peace too. Joe Taylor,
look, throughout history, they talked about these giants, and they've gone from being like Bigfoot size 7 all the way up. I mean, there's 30 feet. They're talking 30-foot giants. It's not unheard of. And then I don't want to mention the Nephilim, because way too many people everything's the Nephilim and demons, and it's not. I thoroughly believe these creatures, these are its own species. They've been here long before, God created, the heaven and earth and did things. They've been around for a while. So
there he is, right there next to it.
Yeah, we're actually doing a tribute show on Joe on my channel next Tuesday night at 8. Joe's coming on the show. MK's coming on the show, and Ron Moorhead's coming on the show, and we're going to do a tribute to Joe. Cool. And we're gonna do the Lovelock Cave, because they all got to see the handprint inside of Lovelock before they took it off the wall. Joe even actually he casted it. They have a cast of it. So
does anybody know what's going to happen to the museum and its artifacts?
They are giving everybody a chance to take back what they wanted, and they're going to sell off the rest.
Wow.
Smithsonian. They come in and crap.
I mean, he's the greatest caster of all time. I mean, he's the best caster in the world. He casted full mammoth. I mean, plaster. Yeah. It's just incredible.
Yeah, no, it was one of those things. It was sad to hear of his passing, and so that's, it's definitely rest in peace on him. It was an honor to be able, at least get him on the show and talk with him. So
yeah.
Oh, you guys had him on the show?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and check that out.
Yeah, I'll see. I can find it, and I'll send it to you. But yeah, we had him on there talking about his museum and everything. We talked to him just after we had the flooding issue with the roof leaking.
Yeah. Then they did the whole. Yep.
So, but man, we're already at an hour and a half. Man, it flew.
Yeah.
So I got to get your website back up here so everybody can see you. Yeah,
I've got to go watch Matlock, so we have to end this.
Yes. So go check out Discover Sasquatch on YouTube, and go right here to discoversasquatch.com. Fill that out, and like I said, up and coming. You got a story, please send it his way. Get him that information. Like I said, it's one of those. There's nothing worse than having evidence, having these stories, and they're never told, and the person passes away.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's the whole point of this. We're gonna get vocals, and we're gonna get people hopefully to feel safe enough to where they can put their report out there, and people will be awareness needs to happen. People need to be aware that this is real, and this is really going on in our forests. This is not fake by any means whatsoever. Awareness is huge. They could be 10 feet away from you and you wouldn't even know they were there. So
now I will send that to you. And also I'll repost it on our group and stuff too. So that way people can, easy access to it as well. It's one of the older shows. So we're, I like to think we're getting better.
I would say so.
I like to tell myself we're getting better. That's what I tell myself. So it
was fun. All
right. Well, I appreciate it. Now, like I said, everybody, definitely go support you. I really, really appreciate you coming on. That was an honor. So it's everybody. Once again, we are brought to you by ERT Radio, ERT Radio, courtesy of Ron. Go to Mixler.com and I got the link, and I'm going to put it back up there on the banner so everybody can see it as it's down there. ERT-radio.mixler.com and create your account. And that's for anybody that said that too fast. It's right there on the screen. We got posted. Go definitely do that. Support him. We're rebroadcast this show will be next Wednesday at 11 p.m. Wednesday, following Into the Outer Realms. So at merchandise, we really support redbubble.com / that's going to be that's Three Beards Podcast. Go check that out with the merchandise, or you can get to us through threebeardspodcast.com. Go to the merchandise section and you can get there. Like, subscribe, become a subscriber on Facebook. 99 cents. I said, if you can't throw stars or a subscription at us, the best thing, like, share. I mean, it seems silly, but literally, like, this is actually one of the most emoji things. 14. We've had these for a while, and I appreciate that, everybody. That's actually the thing. It's just, it takes 1 second. Just click the heart, click the something, click something. Just click it there and share. Just share. I mean, we're talking 10 seconds of your time. Share it to your time.
Need like OnlyFans pages.
Yeah, it's just. What am I supposed to do? Just 24/7 of me doing this in my beard.
Yep.
I mean, there's got to be somebody that that's into that. I mean, I guess that'd be a way to make money. If people are into feet. Somebody's got to be into a beard. I don't know. It's creepy. Yeah, that's one of those support everybody. But everybody, thank you so much for the support that you have. The people that have liked it, the people who have shared it means quite a bit. And just everybody, we will see you next week with another show. If I had it in front of me, I could promote it, but that would be too easy. So I'm going to have to post that on the next one. So everybody, have a great night. We will see you next week. Like I said, Chris Reinhardt, thank you so much. Go support him. Good night.